What's up guys, Headphones Neil here, back with another tutorial for my custom live wallpaper maker series for beginners. So for today's episode, it's actually going to be a relatively simple thing, but may seem a little bit complex the first few times you jump into it. And that of course is going to be using formulas in custom live wallpaper maker. So when you have something set up in your wallpaper like a global variable, or you want certain reaction functions to happen when you do other actions, that's where formulas come in real handy, because not only can you copy and paste them, you can embed them, you can do various different things with formulas, but essentially they allow you to talk to different variables in order to use them to do different things. So, for example, I already have a global variable set up, so I'm going to use that. And I also have a global font set up. So I've covered this briefly in prior tutorials, but in this one I wanted to talk mostly just about them specifically. So I'm going to start with an object, a shape object, so I can use the formulas with the image a little bit. And we're going to move this down a little bit, or not to the right, we're going to move it down. So you can do something as simple as, let's say you want to just have a specific color. I want red. But let's say you wanted to theme with your image that you have selected, or with an image, so you have a fallback color whether you're listening to music or not. So when we go into the formula mode by touching the checkbox and going to the calculator, you can use one of the preset formulas. So you don't necessarily have to remember what each formula is. You just have to pick the actual, or remember where it is in your in the object picker. So we're going to scroll down to bitmap palette, and it defaults to the media player of choice, so, or whatever your media is playing. So let's say you want to have muted colors. If you leave it as is, this is going to say that, okay, well, whenever music is playing, pull the muted color based on that album art. But that's all it does. It doesn't do anything else. It doesn't let you use other options like a global variable for an image, or if you want to specifically pick an image saved to your device or anything like that. So from here, we're going to delete just the music cover option or object. We're going to now pick the global variable for image, and we're going to close it out. So when we do that, now it's going to extract the muted color from the image that we have saved. So let's say you have your background set to image, and even here you can do the same thing. You can set it to formula, and you can pick your global variable. So now when you have the variable, so now when you have your background image set and you have elements on top of it, your colors are extracted from that. But let's say in certain cases you realize that your object elements are too bright or not quite as muted as you expected, or you want a certain extra offset. You can even do embedded formulas. So in the case of this object's color, if you scroll down, you're going to see an option for if conditions. So right here, what is highlighting, and you'll see a couple of options for battery options. But basically the if conditions is exactly that. You want it to react if something is happening, and if that thing is not happening, do something else. So in this case, I wanted to set, and I'm going on a tangent, so I'll get back to the original color thing, the color editor. But let's say I want this to react on, so let's delete this a little bit because to make it a little bit simpler to start from scratch. So I'm going to say if, and once you know that what each element's conditions are, for example, for music, if you go into music info and you scroll down to current player state, you'll see that you can do things like set actions based on if music is playing. So for example, in this case, I want to say if the music state is playing, I want the color of this object to be the bitmap color of the album art, the cover, But if it's not playing, so you'll do comma and you'll pick it again, and just like before, we'll delete mi cover and pick our global variable, and we'll close it out. And it looks like if you have an error in your formula, it will tell you that you have a parentheses mismatch, or the condition is not valid for that option or object or whatever. So you might be missing a comma, parentheses, or something like that. So let's do delete and add the parentheses. So there. So now whenever music is playing, it will pick one color, or it'll pick the color of the media player. But if it's not playing, then it will pick the color from your image. So a pretty simple formula there. Now let's say, going back to my first thought of, let's say you realize that you pick the color and it's too bright and you want to darken it up a little bit. In the FX option, so actually here we don't have that option to darken the color. Oh, actually, yeah, so we don't have it here to darken the color. So let's say you do want to darken it up though a little bit, you can use the color editor option. So when you go into color editor, so there's that option there, you can see all these different options, like you can invert the color, do complementary colors, contrast, alpha, meaning it gives you this kind of transparency effect. You can do all those different things with the color. So we'll do that exactly. So let's say for color editor, we want to, same thing as before, we want to extract the muted color from our cover image. And so we'll pick our image, do the parentheses to close that out, and comma. So let's say we want to blend two colors. So we don't want a transparency effect, but we want to darken the color a little bit. So we're going to mix it with, for simplicity, we'll do it with black, 50% image color, 50% black. So we'll pick black, and you can even drag this around. So if you want to mix it with certain other colors, you can do that as well, so have that extra tint. And then if we want to do a 50-50 blend, you'll do comma and then 50 and close it out. So now when you hit the check mark, you'll see that this blue is a little bit darker than the other blue. So let's actually see them side by side. So and I'm gonna change my background back to black so you can actually see how they look next to each other. So let's move this box down a bit, and we'll go back here. Let's delete this out, and let's go here and here. So changing this back, oh, don't want that. So now you can see the two colors. The first one on top is the one with the 50% blend. The second one is with the no blend. And you can do similar things like that with the transparency, different colors. So if you want to have your background image, but you want to give it a, pink or purple or blue or red or whatever other tint, you can do all sorts of blends. So you don't have to pick black. You can pick those other colors. You can do alpha blends. You can do the complementary color. So instead of blue, it'll pick whatever complements blue. It'll invert blue to the best guess invert of that. So, simple black and white inverts like that. So that's where those formulas come into play very well. And you can use them in conjunction with the if variable. So you can say, if music is playing, I want a 50% alpha of the color image, or muted color cover image at 50%. But if music is not playing, I just want the regular muted color extracted from the global variable image that you have saved. So you don't necessarily have to use everything in one particular way. You can mix and match your embedded formulas. And even better is you can set your embedded formulas as a global variable. So you saw all the length of that string in the color for my objects. So this can get, so actually, and I don't think I saved it, but something like this can get very, very long if you're going to have two of these in an if statement. So the benefit of doing this in a global variable means that you can go in here, set your various color options, and use a global variable. So not only can you easily manipulate your objects by just changing the image, you can simplify the formulas that you create. So we have the image saved. So let's say you want to extract the muted image color, and then you also want to extract the vibrant image color. So we'll leave the menu options for the global variable to color in both of them. We'll change them to formula mode, and we'll do exactly that. Well, for the muted, we'll extract the muted color from the image, and then for the vibrant, we'll extract the vibrant color from the image. So now when you go to set your formulas, you don't have to go looking for those particular functions. You don't have to go set it every time you change a variable. You just have to change your image and everything will adjust accordingly. So for the top image, I'm going to set it to the muted color. So let's delete that. We're going to pick our formula, and you see our global variable color showed up. So there's that. And we'll do the same thing for our other one. And we'll do that. So vibrant. So there you go. You can now pull the formulas in. So now when you look at the formulas, they are so much shorter. So even if you wanted to set up a formula of if music is playing, I want my tile to be muted. Oh, if mi state ing. So if music is playing, I want a muted tile. But why is it doing that? But if music is not playing, I want a vibrant tile. So we'll close that out. Let's delete that. And if that is weird because it's doing. Oh, I probably forgot my. There, I forgot my $sign, so I forgot my own rule for formulas. So what we have is we have a formula where if music is playing, then our global variable or our tile is going to be a muted color. But if it's not playing, we want a vibrant color. So we know that the colors are dimming down a little bit. So we have that set. And so now to carry that formula over, let's say we say, okay, this color is still very bright. So we want to change this formula from muted to our color editor, and we want to change this to let's say an alpha of 50, and we want to do the same thing for our vibrant color, so we can kind of show that off. And alpha 50. So now we have that transparency. So let's go to our background. Let's change it to the image really quick, and you'll see that it is now a more transparent box. So you can do things like that as well. And let's move this down a little bit so it shows it off a little bit. So if you want to have a little bit of a glass tile effect, then you can do that as well with your formula. Same thing goes for things like fonts. So let's say you have a text box, and today you pick one font, but then by the time you finish your home screen, you realize that the font just doesn't flow well with your home screen. So what we'll do is let's move this down, and let's make the size kind of big. So we're going to change the font to a global variable. I already have one set up for the Ubuntu font. But let's say I like it today, but tomorrow I want to pick let's say I like and half of these look really same, but let's say I like this one right here. By doing that, you can automatically change the fonts on all of your objects, so you can have multiple text boxes with the same font. You only have to change it once instead of going to different places. So that's where formulas like this come into play. And you can even use formula boxes in the text box. So let's say you want to say if, let's see, what's a good one? Let's say battery info. Okay, so let's say if battery source equals AC, we'll say hello. Otherwise, we want it to say bye. And we'll close it up. So right now my phone is plugged in, so it's going to say hello. But let's say I unplug it, it automatically changes to bye. So you can do simple other things too, like if you wanted to say when it's plugged in that it's charging and when it unplugs it's discharging, or to show the battery percent or something else, you can do all sorts of things like that based on reaction items. And the same thing goes for touch items. So like if you wanted to create a menu option, which gets into a little bit more of the advanced thing because you have to set conditions of text box. So you have to have a text box set to 0, and then reaction items for multiple menu options. So if you have 3 buttons you want to push, but that all react equally, like you push one menu option so it opens one, closes another, you push the second one and it closes the other two, and things like that. That's sort of stuff gets a little bit more advanced, but you can do things like that where you can say that if you push the button, then react on that element or do certain animations and things like that. So with that being said, that's kind of what I wanted to cover though with formulas. Is those are the easiest ways to use formulas is with the color options and text and font. So you can have words appear as you would need, reaction items based on, let's say, if you're connected to Wi-Fi or not, if you're connected to your mobile network or not, your phone is charging or discharging. Colors react based on your media playing, actions, and then all of that. And then you can use formulas embedded within each other to say, like, if media, like I was doing, was that if music is playing, then pick one color, or you can even set visibility options. So like for the text box, you can do things like for the paint, but that is also actually weird. But let's say you have a stack group. Let's do stack. I don't want to share, I want to paste here. So let's say this layer, let's say when your phone is charging, same thing as before. If you change the always action, so for the visibility, you can have always, never, remove, and a variety of different options. So you can actually set that to a variable, and you can say if battery info. So if your phone is plugged in, you can say if that equals AC, never. But if it's not on AC, we want it to be visible. Oh man, I forgot a parentheses. So now it's invisible because my phone is plugged in, but if we unplug it again, it's going to become visible. So formulas are a very powerful thing to use for custom live wallpaper maker. So I always recommend considering things like that whenever you're getting ready to set up your wallpaper, because you want to set up your variables and functions before you start, so you can set up your colors, your fonts, your image, and all of that. Because even if you don't use it, or if you're even going to use it for something as simple as in your background or in particular objects, it's much easier to have it set up in your global variables and then use a formula to link to that, so that way you can change it in your global variables instead of having to dig into if you have an overlap group and then you have a stack group and then you have another stack group inside that, and then you stick your image in there, now you have to go so many layers deep to change it versus just going into the main custom live wallpaper options and then going into um, globals and changing whatever you want there. So um, that's one of those reasons why I recommend using formulas, is so that you can link to things in your global variables and make it a lot easier to change different elements on the fly instead of having to go through multiple layers. And then also you keep your home screen that much more unified by um, using formulas and having everything consolidated into one place and pulling from that one place. So that's all there is for this particular episode and review. So if you have any questions, comments, feedback, want me to show a formula in a particular way that you might be interested in, then definitely comment on this post and I'll try and duplicate or mimic what you're trying to do and share that video to share what's going on. So that is all for this particular episode and tutorial. You can find the playlist to all the videos in the series in the show notes on the YouTube channel. The link to the playlist is in the show notes, and the YouTube channel is youtube.com/PatelN01. But thanks for tuning into this particular episode, and until next time.